Hey everyone, welcome to episode 3 of Scalo Labs YouTube channel. In this particular video, we're going to walk through how do you query GA4 data naturally inside a Slack channel. So this particular video is for casual business users who don't want to go through GA4 interface or go through dashboards, but rather get some quick numbers without depending on anybody. Now, there is Google Analytics for MCP available, but that's a completely separate discussion setup, and it needs a separate video of its own, which I'll be doing. So in this particular one, we'll be looking at an n8n solution, which makes this possible for users to get in. Now, let's dive into the workflow setup very quickly, and then I'll show you the details and even pitfalls of what to watch out for. So what does this do? Like your triggers in n8n, in this particular case, it looks for a Slack trigger, which means the user has sent a message. Once it does that, then it cleans up the query from the user into a message, sends it off to AI agent. In this case, I'm using Google Analytics reporting tool along with Google Gemini 2.5 Pro. Once the information is passed, it then sends back to Slack as a message inside the channel as a reply, so you don't spam everybody who's inside that channel. Now, let's look at a previous execution that I ran. What do these nodes represent? So in Slack trigger, I'm saying if somebody mentions the bot, which I've created in Slack, and this is the channel that it needs to look out for, collect the message. So in this case, I asked the bot, what was the engagement rate for the website yesterday? And this is the trigger. So it takes that, sends it to an edit fields node, which essentially just cleans up the message. So I'm saying I'm using JavaScript over here to clean out everything that's before the main message. So if you look at the text input, it was at the bot name. What was the engagement rate for the website? And if you look at the output, it cleans it up and just says what was the engagement rate for the website. So it makes it much more handy for your AI agent to build it and query the data and bring it back. Now inside my AI agent, again, I'm using the prompt, which is the message that the user has passed from the previous node. In this case, what was the engagement rate? And then it goes through GA4 data and then gives out the output. Now, the model that I've connected to is Gemini 2.5 Pro. And I've also connected to the tool. In this case, it's Google Analytics 4. Here is a very simple walkthrough. It checks through my property ID. The date range, I want to keep it custom because obviously the user can decide what data they want to query. So the start and end date is defined by the model, and I'm giving it additional context that, hey, here's the metric from the previous node that you want it to run, and also the dimensions as well. So figure out what the dimensions and the metrics are, and then run the query. The simple memory tool, what it does is it creates a context window, which means that if you ask a follow-up question, it doesn't completely forget it. So it keeps the conversation going, and I've kept it a limit of 10 messages. You can decide how many you want to keep. Then once it's done, it sends it back to Slack as a message. So in this case, again, I'm using the channel ID, which is defined from my Slack trigger, and it sends a message with the output. Now look at this over here. So for Jan 24th, engagement rate was this. And it also sends it as a reply. So again, it doesn't spam the entire channel. So this is how it looks now in Slack. Here's my message. What was the engagement rate for the website? And immediately I get a reply. It tells me for this particular date, engagement rate was this. Great. Now the things that you need to watch out for. Okay, first let's go through the Slack setup. So you need to go to api.slack.com, create a bot, and in this case, it's going to give you credentials, your client secret, which you need to go in n8n and enter. More importantly, at the app level tokens, you need to give it authorizations to read, and then obviously write the message back. So this is important. it will create a request URL. So as long as you're in the staging environment or testing environment inside n8n, it links different. Once you publish your workflow in n8n, then you need to switch the URL to the production URL. So that's something minor to watch out for. Now, inside Slack, this is how it looks. Now, the main areas that you need to watch out for are the hallucinations, and this can happen quite a lot. Now, we talk about web analytics and how it's changing, but I think in the future, I mean, right now, a lot of the work is going to focus around quality assurance, looking at edge cases and trying to make sure that the data that comes out is spot on with no hallucinations. Now, look at the AI agent node that I have. Now, this is very simple. The prompt, it picks up from what the users type, but in the system message, which you're defining the role for the node. Now, the AI agent over here, I'm saying it's a GA4 analyst. You're prohibited from estimating or inventing data. And this is important as well because it starts looking at dates from the past, or it even happened in the future. So in order to set the context completely right, I'm giving it a timestamp and saying that today is whatever is the date and time. It looks at that. More importantly, it tells us you can only report numbers from the tool. If the tool doesn't if the report doesn't contain any data, then you must report saying 0, no data found. Under no circumstance you should estimate the number. This has happened when I was doing test runs. So I'll show you one example of where it happened. Now, another thing to watch out for is the mapping between the metrics that are in GA4 and the natural language in which people will use the tool. I've put up some of the major metrics over here. Obviously, you can expand the map and completely customize it based on who your business users or target users are and what type of language are they referring. Example, one user can say how many leads did we get, and in GA4 leads equals a conversion. So you need to map it based on your business setup and how GA4 reports those numbers. So you can obviously change it, and all the metrics that you want, you can get it from the GA4 API developer page, which gives you a whole list of maybe around 300 metrics. So you can do it from there and change it based on what you need. So that is the main thing to watch out for. And the example that I was telling you about where it hallucinated and gave me helpful numbers, so you don't want that happening with your analytics data, which is why I had to go back into the AI agent, and in the system prompt I told it, do not hallucinate when it comes to data. And what's this over here? All right, so this had an issue with pulling in the numbers. In my error, I started asking it tricky questions just to see, where is it going with this. So I asked, what's the average site duration for last 17 days? And it tells me 5 minutes 48 seconds, and it's saying from 8 January to 2024 26. Now in my analytics data, because I have set it up, I know that that's not the case, and I didn't have data till last 2 days ago. More importantly, when you look at the duration, it's much less. So this is where your AI agent can start to give you helpful numbers, and you don't want it happening, which is why in system prompt I went back and edited it to make sure that either be factual, either give me 0, tell me data not found, and also include the dates in the response. So if you look at the agent workflow, I've told it in all responses, in all responses, use the start and end date to avoid any misunderstanding. So if somebody says last 7 days data, does it include today's data? Yes or no? You need to have that in. So when the bot goes and fetches data, it always gives you the start and end date of the period that you've asked for. So this is very important, and it's quite simple to set up. I'll be putting the link to the n8n workflow in the description. Feel free to use it. It's a free template, and yeah, happy querying with this data. So let me know if you have any questions about the setup. If it's complicated, yes, no. If you want more types of content, please do put it up as a comment and I'll get to it. The last thing I want to mention was once you publish, let's go back over here to the editor. So once you publish your workflow, once you've tested it, it runs fine, you will get a production link for your workflow, which means that you need to go inside the n8n Slack trigger and move from the test to the production URL. So you need to enter that as well. Once that happens, it should work fine. Now let's do a very quick run and see how this looks. I've created a app. I've invited it to my channel. So let's say how many users visited the website for the last 3 days. Okay. Cool. Response is yeah. Standing between this Jan 23rd and Jan 25th with 7 active users, and it's also giving me a daily breakdown. Let's go and 23rd and 25th, 23, 24, 25. So let's change this to 23, 25. Cool. So 23rd is 0, 24th is 4, and 25th is 3. Let's just verify it. 0, 4, and 3. Okay, great success. Things you need to watch out for is mapping the language for the metrics that people will use inside Slack and mapping it to the actual metrics that you have set up inside GA4 to make sure that things don't break. And lastly, it's the hallucinations part. So you need to run test queries and see what dates is it picking. In my case, it was going into the future, or it was going into 2024, which is why in the AI agent node, I explicitly started giving it extra instructions that today is this date, do not move into the future, do not give me false data, and yeah, then give me the actual numbers. So yeah, this is the walkthrough for this very quick n8n workflow. I hope it helps you in your setup. And like I mentioned, we're going to be doing a separate walkthrough for GA4 MCP, and I'll be walking you through that one as well. So until next episode, take care, bye.